very happy to introduce Carol Waranius.
Yeah, I've arrived. Did everyone hear that? Well, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with you this morning. It's truly a pleasure to be here. I've enjoyed the service, and you're very lucky people to belong to the Unitarian congregation. It's very lovely. I'd like to begin with a Baha'i prayer, if I may. O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all should belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all, dost shelter all, conferrest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind. The aim of the Baha'i faith, as prayer states, is the unification of the planet into one universal family. Before I talk about the statement, the promise of world peace, I'd like to give you a bit of background about the Baha'i faith. How many people here are familiar or have heard of the Baha'i faith? Oh, wow. I love you all. During the mid-1800s, there was great expectation throughout the world and among various religious traditions that the time was imminent for the advent of the Promised One, the one who would usher in a time of peace and establish the kingdom of God on earth. In 1844, in Shiraz, Persia, which is now Iran, a young merchant named Ali Muhammad announced that he was the Promised One of Islam, the Qayyim expected by the Shias, and the Mahdi expected by the Sunnis. This meek and devout young man took the title of the Bab, which means the gate. The Bab established an independent religion, separate from Islam, and heralded the advent of another greater messenger, him whom God shall make manifest. His claim quickly earned him thousands of followers who were known as Babis. Religious authorities and government officials became alarmed at the influence of the Bab and set out to completely eradicate this new religion. The Babis were persecuted, tortured, and hideously, and 20,000 were put to death. The Bab himself was imprisoned in a remote area of Persia, and in 1850 was executed by a firing squad of 750 soldiers. One of the Bab's ardent followers, just 2 years younger than the Bab, was a young man from a noble and wealthy family in Tehran named Mirza Hussein Ali. Imprisoned for his faith in a notorious subterranean prison known as the Black Pit, this young man, along with other Babis, was made to wear a heavy chain around his neck and his feet in stocks. It was in this condition that he received an intimation that he was the messenger of whom the Bab had spoken. After 4 months in this foul prison, Mirza Hussein Ali was released, but forced into exile to Baghdad, Iraq. In Baghdad, he rallied the flagging Babi community, which alarmed again the ecclesiastical and government officials, and he was ordered by the Shah to come to the capital of the Ottoman Empire, Constantinople. It was just before leaving Baghdad in 1863 that Mirza Hussein Ali revealed to the Bab's followers and to the people of the city that he was indeed the promised one foretold by the Bab, that he represented the spiritual return of all earlier manifestations, that he was the Lord of hosts awaited by the Jews, the Buddha Maitreya awaited by the Buddhas, the Avatar Kalki awaited by the Hindus, the Shah Brahman awaited by the Zoroastrians, the return of Christ awaited by the Christians. He took the title Baha'u'llah, which means the glory of God. His followers were known as Baha'is. In Constantinople, the Persian ambassador and his allies urged the Ottoman authorities to remove Baha'u'llah to a place where he would not be able to exert his influence on the people. After 4 months, Baha'u'llah, his family, and a few believers were again exiled, this time to Adrianople, a provincial city in the Ottoman Empire, in Ottoman-held Europe, now known as Edirne, Turkey. His arrival marked the first time in recorded history that a founder of a world religion had set foot in Europe. After 5 years, Baha'u'llah was again exiled, this time to a penal colony in Akka, Palestine. The conditions were so foul there that his enemies did not think he would survive, and at first conditions were very harsh. But gradually his guards and the people of the town became friendly with him. Ottoman troop movements made it necessary for the prison to be used as a barracks, and Baha'u'llah and his family were moved to various lodgings in the city. Baha'u'llah passed in 1892. His remains are buried in Haifa, Israel. Before his passing, Baha'u'llah wrote his will and testament. In that document, he left explicit instructions that his eldest son, Abdul-Baha, would succeed him as head of the faith. At his passing in 1921, Abdul-Baha left in his will and testament instructions that the faith be under the direction of his eldest grandson, Shoghi Effendi. Shoghi Effendi labored for 36 years to bring Baha'u'llah's message to the people of the world, slowly building up the administrative institutions of the faith. He passed in 1957. In 1963, the centenary of the Declaration of Baha'u'llah, the first worldwide governing body of the Baha'i faith, was elected. In 1985, it is this elected body, known as the Universal House of Justice, who wrote a letter to the peoples of the world titled The Promise of World Peace. Who here thinks peace is a good idea? Almost everyone. Who here thinks peace is possible? Not almost everyone. What are some barriers to peace that you can think of?
Ego, greed,
Ego, greed, fear,
survivorship,
survivorship,
capitalism.
capitalism. Any others?
Climate change.
Climate change. Did somebody say something about food?
Food and water.
Food and water, resources, natural resources? Okay.
Religious beliefs.
Religious beliefs, bingo. This letter starts by asserting, and I quote, "The great peace toward which people of goodwill throughout the centuries have inclined their hearts, of which seers and poets for countless generations have expressed their vision, and for which from age to age the sacred scriptures of mankind have constantly held the promise, is now at long last within the reach of the nations. For the first time in history, it is possible for everyone to view the entire planet with all its myriad diverse peoples in one perspective. World peace is not only possible, it is inevitable. It is the next stage in the evolution of this planet. In the words of one great thinker, the planetization of mankind." The Universal House of Justice goes on. "Whether peace is reached only after unimaginable horrors precipitated by humanity's stubborn clinging to old patterns of behavior, or is to be embraced now by an act of consultative will, is the choice between all who inhabit the earth. The winds of despair," Baha'u'llah wrote, "are alas blowing from every direction, and the strife that divides and afflicts the human race is daily increasing. The signs of impending convulsions and chaos can now be discerned, inasmuch as the prevailing world order appears to be lamentably defective." And remember, he wrote this in the 1860s. The aggression and conflict that have come to characterize our social, economic, and religious systems have led many to view such behavior as intrinsic to human nature. A contradiction has developed. On one hand, people proclaim their readiness and desire for peace, and on the other hand, they believe that human beings are naturally selfish and aggressive and incapable of achieving peace. To acknowledge that war, prejudice, and exploitation have been an expression of the immaturity of humanity is not a reason for despair. However bleak the suffering of humanity in the immediate time, the Baha'is have confidence that humanity will come to recognize the innate excellence of its reality. Baha'u'llah stated, "Noble have I created thee, yet thou hast abased thyself. Rise then to that for which thou wast created." That which distinguishes humanity from other forms of life is known as the human spirit. This has two components. The mind is its essential quality. The human mind has enabled humanity to prosper materially, to build civilizations. But this has not satisfied the human spirit. It longs for a deeper connection, a reaching toward an invisible realm, the unknowable essence known as God. Baha'u'llah stated, "Religion is the greatest of all means for the establishment of order in the world and for the peaceful contentment of all that dwell therein. Should the lamp of religion be obscured, chaos and confusion will ensue, and the lights of fairness, of justice, of tranquility and peace cease to shine." Religious fanaticism occurring in various lands cannot be viewed as more than a dying convulsion. The violence and social disruption attest to its spiritual bankruptcy. Religion has always been a vital force in history. However, for many decades, it has been viewed by increasing numbers as irrelevant. In its place, people have turned to materialistic pursuits or man-made ideologies. Where is the new world promised by these ideologies? A universal framework must be adopted for banning nuclear weapons, prohibiting the use of poison gases, or outlawing germ warfare will not remove the root causes of war. National leaders recognize the worldwide character of the problem, yet there is a paralysis of will rooted in the belief of the innate wickedness of humanity. There are hopeful signs. Since the end of World War II, formalization of cooperation between nations has increased. Increasing attention is being focused on some of the most deep-rooted problems of the planet, and there is much to be addressed. Racism is a major barrier to peace. It retards the potentialities of its victims. It corrupts its perpetrators and blights human progress. The disparity between wealthy and poor keeps the world in a state of instability. The solution calls for a combination of spiritual, moral, and practical approaches. Unbridled nationalism must give way to a greater love of humanity. Baha'u'llah states, "The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens." Love of humanity does not exclude love for one's country. Religious strife has been the cause of innumerable wars. Religious leaders must submerge their theological differences and, in a spirit of mutual forbearance, work together for the advancement of peace. The equality of the sexes is one of the most important prerequisites of peace. Only as women are welcomed into full partnership in all fields will the moral and psychological climate be created in which peace can emerge. Ignorance is the principal reason for the decline and fall of peoples and the perpetuation of prejudice. Universal education must be achieved. The lack of communication between people is a serious barrier to peace. An international auxiliary language must be adopted. How then can peace be achieved? World order can be founded only on the consciousness of the oneness of mankind, a spiritual truth which all science confirms. The sciences recognize one human species with infinitely varied diversity. Universal acceptance of this principle is essential. Unity in diversity is the assertion of the Baha'i community. Baha'i community can serve as an example. It is a diverse, worldwide community laboring to bring about Baha'u'llah's vision of world unity. I hope I've given you a glimmer of the contents of the promise of world peace. I have copies that you have picked up for your reading pleasure and further reflection. I also want to let you know that 2017 is the bicentenary of the birth of Baha'u'llah, and the Fond du Lac Baha'i community will be hosting a couple of events about this important day on the weekend of October 21st. We've got a couple of events planned at the library, and we hope you'll all attend. We also offer study groups that delve into the life of the spirit and the writings of Baha'u'llah and further information about the Baha'i faith. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.